every new MMO coming in 2023 and beyond, and what can you play by Force Gaming. I'm assuming when he says what you can play is like what might actually be coming out, or maybe beta testers, stuff like that is what I would guess. So let's take a look at the video.
If there's one thing I've learned about MMOs over these past 15 years, it's never count on a release date. These games take a long time, cost a lot of money, and development never goes as planned. So when a new MMO gets revealed and claims we're launching this year,
even the releases don't really go that well. So
expect the next year, or maybe even the year after that. This is true for a number of games we'll be taking a look at today. Many of which were supposed to have launched in 2022 or earlier, but now look to be coming in 2023 or later. I've been putting together a video like this since 2014. I've been doing this annually.
He's been doing it for a long time. I remember seeing his videos back then.
From the prior year's list, if that gives you pretty much any indication that would sum up the whole thing for you. I can't predict the future, but I can tell you where each game currently stands, how development is looking, and
based on what they've shown,
to be able to play the game within 2023. Before we jump,
and it's usually rule of thumb is like more gameplay means sooner release date, less gameplay means further release date in general.
Jump into the list though, let's get a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Ridge Ring. You may know Ridge for their durable compact wallets and watches. Well, now they have their own range of rings. These two are quite durable and come in a variety of materials, including carbon fiber, tungsten, carbide, 24 karat gold, and titanium. They have an outer beveled edge for on-hand comfort and an inner convex shape for a comfortable no-pinch fit. And each ring comes with a dual-band silicone ring if you want to something a little more comfortable.
I mean, if you like simple, then that's actually really nice.
To try, I've had it for a bit, and it's nice. Like the watches and wallets, the thing has some heft to it. It feels strong, comfortable, and quite durable. They also come with a guarantee. Whether you lose a ring or need to swap sizes, each purchase comes with the option of 2 exchanges for the same ring in the same
That's funny. That almost seemed like a commercial for his sunglasses and not the ring.
Different size. Right now, you can save up to 40% by following my link, ridge.com/force, through December 22nd. Okay.
I think it'd be more interesting if they allowed you to like actually put in some inscription, like whether either wording or symbols like onto it. That'd be pretty cool.
Okay, so let's start with the games that currently either have a confirmed release window in 2023 or seem very likely to be playable in some form, be that early access, alpha, or
like what I was talking about.
First up is Blue Protocol, the MMO that seems...
I'm very... like I'm looking forward to Blue Protocol, but I'm also like, man... I have a feeling it's gonna do the Tower of Fantasy route, and I think that's what I'm really worried about with that one. So we'll see. I'm gonna play it no matter what, but it's like, I don't know. I think as an MMO player, like you kind of have to have that mentality where it's like, well, I'll play it, but it probably will suck.
Likely to officially launch this year,
or it'll be like, it's gonna suck, whether it's like pay to win stuff or like people just not playing anymore starts to die, which in MMOs is always like a big deal. So
just recently the game was confirmed to be coming out in the spring in Japan and later in the year for the West. Blue Protocol is an anime
because the game looks good.
Not typically my preferred visual style for this genre. I am quite looking forward to this one, as I've
I understand, but to me it's like I don't really have a preferred visual style, if I'm going to be honest. Like I like Black Desert, I like Warcraft, I like Final Fantasy, also like this type, like Genshin, well, I guess not Genshin, like Zelda, Breath of the Wild kind of look. So
I've been really impressed by what I've seen in terms of the gameplay and combat.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Everything looks really slick, smooth, responsive, impactful. I've heard a lot of good feedback from early testing of the game, and I really like a lot of the animation work on display. Just everything about the combat, the gameplay in Blue Protocol looks really solid from what I've seen. Quite possibly the biggest downside for...
And that's it has to have that, because outside of that, the game rarely offers anything that much other than like gotcha waifus. So
this one, though, is that it's not what some would consider a true MMO, but more of
that's
a
pretty cool.
lobby-based shared world with instanced zones, loading screens between them, and player caps in all of it. Outside of that, though, Blue Protocol will have the standard suite of theme park MMO offerings, dungeons, PvP content, crafting and life skills, various zones to explore, bosses to fight, etc. The game's got a bit of story emphasis as well, with the main story quest said to be an epic journey through time. The game will be launching with 5 different playable classes. There's the Blade Ward.
Usually when they mean epic, most games when they refer to that, that's just like big bad guy, go beat big bad guy. And that's about as epic as it gets. Like, that's their version of epic.
Then a Master of Sword and Shield. This is a close-range defensive class, or a tank, basically. The Twin Striker is another close-range melee class, but more of a brawler. There's the Keen Strider, a ranged bow user.
That looks bad.
This is a technical class that specializes in
that looks really bad
and excels at mid and long range.
Okay, that's a little better.
And there's the Spellweaver, a high difficulty, long distance.
I don't know the levels, but if you saw the previous class was only doing like a couple of hundred damage, this dude just did like 700.
Mage class suitable for party play.
Yeah. Oh no, that's 62. Okay, I'm blind.
Play with the ability to eliminate target.
Is that really the case? I gotta see this again. One second.
This is a technical class that specializes in party battles and
288.
mid and long range.
119. Is that an exclamation point? That is so confusing. Why would they have an exclamation point? The damage numbers on this game looks pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Then there's the Spellweaver.
657. I knew it. Like, he does hit pretty hard.
Long distance mage class suitable for party play with the ability to eliminate targets quickly from afar. And lastly is the Foe Breaker, a close to medium range.
What a... He was about to unleash a big spell and then they like moved it to the next one. That was kind of dumb.
Crowd control class that maintains the battle line with a heavyweight hammer. So every class in Blue Protocol can equip up to 4 skills that can be...
I mean, that's obviously low level gameplay, which kind of sucks that it does look pretty crappy. Gonna be honest, did not look that good, but it's obviously low level gameplay.
And modified with skill points, you'll equip various combinations of these skills,
that's pretty cool.
Modifiers, and abilities to customize
that's a weird weapon.
Your different preferred play style. They've also got these things called mystical echoes, these spiritual remnants of creatures with powerful attacks for you to summon in battle. You'll be able to obtain echoes during quest or even craft them using special.
Oh, they got that from Elden Ring.
The game has got the typical
that's funny.
anime.
I mean, it's smart.
Customization options with different facial features, hairstyles, outfits, accessories, and all sorts of quirky facial expressions. Other features of Blue Protocol include the ability to craft custom weapons.
Like, not gonna lie, this is what I really wanted from Phantasy Star Online with their MMO.
Gear, a variety of different types of mounts. They've got diverse biomes to explore, all of the standard fare of fantasy locations, highlands, plains, mountains, deserts, and forests. And actually, from what I've seen, some of the environmental art and design, just the landscapes and the zones that you'll be playing in, are really top notch. Like, this is really good looking stuff. Again, I typically don't prefer
it does look really good
aesthetic for MMOs, but I do find the visuals appealing in Blue Protocol quite a lot. Now, as mentioned early on here, this is an instance-based shared world game. They've said that zones will have a maximum of 30 players, towns will go up to 200, dungeon groups will consist of 6 players. Now, they have said that there will be 0 pay to win in the game. There is
hopefully that's not too low on the volume.
No pay for power or
volume, whatever.
However, in a recent
I say words weirdly, so
they have confirmed apparently that there will
it's
be
just getting too loud for me.
Some kind in the game. So rip, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully the rest.
Well, a gacha is not a rip on its own. For me, I have no real problems with gachas. At least I've come to accept them as a way of life with gaming until freaking our legislators are going to get involved. There's nothing we can do. I just don't personally usually get involved in it. But as long as it doesn't really have like energy stuff, like I cannot stand the energy ones, just because a lot of times when they have that in there, it usually means that they've capped out a lot of things. Like whether it's gathering, dungeons, whatever it may be, it interrupts the gameplay. Unlike the gacha stuff, which is gachas you can ignore. Like you can play around a gacha system. You can't play around an energy system. You just either gotta stop playing or pay money.
The rest of the game offers enough of a fun experience to at least get some enjoyment out of it before having to dig too deep into our wallets, but I guess we will see. Blue Protocol will be free to play. It's currently planned to release on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, first in Japan in the spring, and then everywhere else in the...
I'm always hesitant with Japanese releases because they always take forever to release to anywhere else after they've released in Japan. I have no idea why. Like, Phantasy Star took a long time. There's a few others. And then, like, the one I really wanted to play, which never even came to the States, which sucks, which is the Dragon's Dogma. Like, that was a really, or at least, I didn't play the MMO, but I did play, like, the normal PS2, I think, or PS3 game. And that was, like, one of my favorite games of all time.
Second half of 20.
Really sucks I can never
no
get to
firm
play
dates
it.
here, but yes, if you're going to count on any new
So I think it
MMO
closed.
coming out next year, Blue Protocol should be near the top of your list. Next up is Throne and Liberty. This is a game that has actually been in development for a very long time.
This one does look pretty interesting.
Started out as a successor to Lineage, the medieval fantasy MMO developed by NCSoft back in 1998. That game got a sequel called Lineage 2, which launched in 2003, and then what was supposed to be Lineage 3 was revealed in 2011. Originally, this was called Project TL, and it was a top-down ARPG MMO.
That looks kind of crappy. Looks really slow.
However, after many years in development and going through several restarts, they decided to make some drastic changes, which led to the current game we see today.
Yeah, they definitely needed it, because even like Hades is just 10 times better than what this is showing.
Throne and Liberty, its new name, is no longer a top-down Diablo-esque hack-and-slash MMO. Instead, we've got a third-person action game
that is
with realistic visuals and combat that on the surface...
That's like a total 180 in terms of like development. They probably had to trash literally everything from that previous one.
Looked to be reminiscent of something like Black Desert Online, although we did learn through developer interviews that it's more of an action hybrid system, which leads me to believe it'll be some sort of soft lock, maybe similar to what they do in Elder Scrolls Online. Some of the key...
I didn't catch that. 1 second.
It's an action game with realistic visuals and combat that on the surface looked to be reminiscent of something like Black Desert Online, although we did learn through developer interviews that it's more of an action hybrid system, which leads me to believe it'll be
action hybrid
soft lock, maybe similar to what they do in Elder Scrolls Online. Some of the
as long as they make the combat feels impactful, like that's one of my big issues with ESO or Elder Scrolls Online, was that the combat just really felt like bad, like floaty. Like a lot of things you didn't feel like it had any weight to them. So hopefully they don't lean too much into the ESO combat.
The key features of Throne and Liberty include a weapon class system where you are not locked into a role or class, but instead you pick 2 weapons that will determine your class, kind of like what New World does, except this game will have...
I was just about to say that. That's exactly what New World does.
More than 3 abilities per weapon. It's said to have a massive open world with dynamic weather that directly affects enemies, your abilities, and even the terrain. So this system has implications such as making bosses stronger or weaker depending on the...
I don't know how I feel about those kind of things where it's like you don't really have a class, like it's your weapon that kind of determines it. Because with New World, I'll be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of it, so
whether
I don't know.
Enhancing or debuffing player ability.
Which I know doesn't really make sense because it's like each class has like its weapon. Like warriors are usually like an axe or something, or berserkers are like an axe.
Abilities and attacks, and even restricting or opening up access to various parts of the world. Outside of the natural changes to the weather cycles, players will also be able to unlock a special one-off ability to call in a storm or even summon up a solar eclipse, which...
What the heck?
Speaking of which...
That doesn't really... I have a feeling that may not make it out of beta, just because for an MMO to give a single player that level of influence, I just feel like you're going to run into issues, especially if there's more than like a couple of people. Imagine like 10 people trying to do that all at once.
Day-night cycle will also play into these adjustments. Its weather and day-night cycle will change the battlefield in those various means. The enemy types, what enemies spawn, making them stronger or weaker.
There was a game that did this. What was it? It's super old MMO. I forget the name of it now. It was kind of interesting that once night fell, like the enemies would become like pretty much elites. Like everyone, like it just became way, way harder. What was that game? I remember it was like gory as heck. Like it was one of the most gory games for its time. At least on the MMO space. Yeah, that's gonna bother me. I'll try to find it later, but yeah, it had a somewhat similar system in that the day and night would affect what actually spawns.
Making players' abilities and attacks stronger or weaker, and yeah, changing up.
That's kind of dumb. I don't like that. How do I say this so it doesn't sound bad? But I don't like when things outside of the player's control can reflect badly on its damage. I guess it would depend on like, because it's just annoying having to run with multiple weapons just because of like the time of day you're playing. Like if it all of a sudden gets dark in the game, and then all of a sudden now your weapon that you like to use is kind of trash. So it's going to depend on how much it affects it and how easy it is to get other gear to be like at the same level.
It's a pretty cool system. There's also a big focus on challenging cooperative PvE. They said that this can be seen most clearly in the game's boss fights, which include these huge open field boss battles.
That's pretty cool.
Potentially up to hundreds of players to take on.
Hundreds of players. That's the problem with that is going to be how they set up their servers. Like if the servers are all merged, that's not going to be any issue. But if you're playing on a server without as many people, and those things require hundreds of people, it's just not like you're immediately locked out of that content, which is dumb.
Got this interesting mechanic where rather than having traditional mounts, they decided to make everyone a druid, basically. The traversal system consists of transforming into different types of animals to run, fly, or swim faster. There will be PvP. This comes in the form of...
I don't mind that, but it's also a case of how are they going to do it? Like skins, like you're going to be able to change that up, how that looks, so you can be a little bit different, or is everyone going to be the same stupid bird? Like Lost Ark, like everyone looks the same unless they like paid money.
Castle sieges with hundreds of players sieging or defending castles. You can control these giant stone golems to smash down walls. You'll also be able
that is really cool.
The game's various movement
it's like Attack on Titan.
Glide, fly, or even grapple onto high terrain and moving around the environment. Outside of the sieges, there's also open world PvP with a PK system in the game, and a lot of the other MMO elements you expect. Capital cities where you can hang out with other players, a big old loot grind for you to engage in, various different types of social and downtime activities. Now, news around Throne.
I wonder what the world PvP is going to be like, because that's always like a hot issue for a lot of people. Is it going to be like New World and Warcraft where you can opt into it, or will it be like Mortal Online where it just is always is?
Liberty was pretty quiet for most of this past year. That was up until September when we learned about the first internal beta test that had been taking place for some time, and they showed some snippets of stuff here. We got to see a look at character creation.
That's actually really cool.
Bosses and grapple mechanics. We saw in a few shots a ton of people on the screen at once doing a cast.
This was really badass when I saw that.
Pretty rough here, but it wasn't.
I don't know why. Like it gives me like Elden Ring vibes.
Impressive, nevertheless, the number of people they were showcasing in one area. Let's talk about the monetization, and this is where things get a little bit iffy. Now, they haven't really laid out specifics as to whether or not the game is like a base box price, a subscription,
why would they?
If it'll be free to play. We don't know for sure. We do, however, know that it's being made by NCSoft, so we can expect microtransactions. This is just something that this company has a well-established track record.
Oh yeah, and like this is a company that is about making games as a business, so more than likely it will be free to play. It will have a battle pass along with a bunch of other microtransactions you can get.
And it would be surprising if they didn't continue it with this new upcoming game. Throne and Liberty was originally set to release in 2022, but then got pushed back to 2023, and the developer has said that the game is still on track and they are aiming to release in the first half of the year. Next up on our list is Ashfall, first shown at the 2022 Tokyo Game Show. The game caught my eye initially because I'm a bit of a sucker for third-person action shooter MMOs. The game is said to be inspired by the Fallout series. It's set in these post-apocalyptic post-apocalyptic world, but with a unique twist as it leans more into an Eastern aesthetic, which I do think is interesting. We don't have many Eastern-inspired
It doesn't look Eastern
games. It's a cool idea for a setting. You know, I really liked the art that they showed.
Like everything they kind of showed so far, other than like the writing, like the letters, you could see in a Western.
The concept art, it was really
scenario.
cool. Some interesting looking areas and environments and post-apocalyptic locations. And on
So I don't
top
know
of that, the
what they mean by
game's
Eastern.
music was said to be co-produced by Hans Zimmer, a very prolific composer known for some incredible scores. Lots of good stuff lined up. I like the setting, the theme, the premise, good concepts, but unfortunately, that was where the good seemed to stop, because once I took a look at the gameplay premiere trailer, I was left very underwhelmed. Gameplay.
This looks like something that came back on like the GameCube, maybe even 64, like GameCube, I would say. Like it looks really bad.
Play just looks bad, basic, bland, really rough all around, and then you've got really stiff animations, really low res looking textures.
This makes
with every new.
What was it, Outriders? I think that's the game. I could be wrong. I think it's Outriders. Like it makes that look like freaking completely next gen.
Cut as I continue
this
to
is
watch
so
the
terrible.
My level of interest progressively dropped, which was a real shame because yes, I like the premise, I enjoy the genre, the setting, but at least for first impressions of the actual game part of Ashfall, it was very poor. Now further digging into the game revealed to me that it will be coming to both PC and mobile, which pretty much explains all of it. It's a bit of a bummer, but I just wanted to put it on the list nevertheless. And honestly,
I might still try it just to kind of check, because I don't want to be like, oh, the graphics are so terrible, I'm not even going to play it. I'll definitely try it just to see if, like how it actually feels in your hand, because that's going to be the most important part.
Who knows, maybe they turn things around, maybe they polish up the PC port, but as of now, from what we've seen, it really just looks like a mobile-first game that also happens to be coming to PC. For
exactly.
me, that is a no thanks. If you are interested, however, Ashfall does look to be released.
I don't like those bullets in the screen, they're too big.
And along those same lines, let's talk about Odin Valhalla Rising. This is this Norse-inspired action MMO from Cacao Games. The early trailer had me excited. It looked cool, but then I realized that this is an auto-play game being made for phones that's coming to PC. Again, real shame because I love the setting and I loved the early look. Now, I did hear that the autoplay part of this game could be removed, or at least would be an option for playing on PC, but it still seems clear to me that this is a mobile game targeted at that demographic and at that platform. And
yeah, they're just releasing it on PC just to hope to get some people to play it. But it's a mobile, like if it was an option, they would go mobile. But since they can do both, why not? But it definitely was designed around mobile.
And the sort of gameplay restrictions that this tend to impose,
which is fair. Like, honestly, that's going to be pretty normal for a lot of games, I think, just because the mobile market is just way, way bigger.
Was on this genre in particular, on MMOs, mean it's probably not going to be something that I will enjoy, but just like Ashfall, I would be happy to be surprised. So those are the games that, as far as we know, will be coming out in 2023. Now, the next games we'll talk about are not officially confirmed to release in 2023 as of right now, but they do appear likely to be playable in some form, whether that is early access, alpha, or beta testing. Dune Awakening. This was first revealed at Gamescom earlier in...
See, when I saw this, I think it's like really like cool looking, but at the same time, I feel like the gameplay itself, I'm just not interested at all. Like, based on everything I saw, it looks both kind of bland and more on the RTS kind of side, which I'm not really my kind of cup of tea.
It is a brand new open world survival MMO from Funcom. This developer is best known for their multiplayer survival game Conan Exiles. They also have a long history with MMOs.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those.
Anarchy Online back in 2001 and
I think it's because they're super time intensive, or investment. Like, you have to invest a ton of time into those kind of games to really get anywhere.
Of Conan in 2008. Now, with Dune Awakening, it appears like their plan is to combine...
Like, that is really, really cool, but is it in the game?
Also a survival game. During the recent Game Awards, they released a pre-alpha teaser showing some in-engine footage, which I think actually looks pretty decent, considering the type of game that they're making. And with this came an update to their website, which paints a pretty clear picture of what we can expect. So they say that Dune Awakening will have the social interactivity of large-scale persistent multiplayer multiplayer games, while also creating a unique and ambitious survival MMO in a vast and seamless world shared by thousands of players. You'll engage in third-person combat from small-scale engagements to massive battles with this fast-paced interplay between infantry,
it almost looks like No Man's Sky
flying vehicles,
if all the planets were deserts.
A lot of PlanetSide, or I guess you could look at games like Battlefield. That's a cool idea for a survival MMO set in the Dune universe. I should also mention here that with that pre-alpha teaser, we saw a lot of characters walking around with range weapons, so it seems pretty clear here that this will not be a melee-focused game. I saw some early thoughts that that might be...
Oh yeah, I don't see how they would have made it melee-focused. Like, there's too much room.
The case because it's set in the Dune universe, but no. Much like their previous title, you're going to be able to make your own base, choosing each building piece from a range of styles. As you're exploring the deserts, you'll have to raise these temporary outposts to protect yourself, which sounds like we'll just be making small camps as we move through the world, dealing with storms as well as these sandworms. There will be a crafting system with weapons, armor, vehicles, attachments, mods, etc. Survival mechanics specifically focused around...
You have to have a crafting system in these kind of games. It doesn't even make sense if you don't.
Thirst. There's going to be a guild system, and guilds will compete for economic dominance by controlling valuable resources.
That's dumb. Like, it depends on to what degree they can do that, but that could really harm their game.
And massive storms are said to be regularly altering the landscape, uncovering new secrets from resources to crashed ships and ancient testing stations. And then once the dust settles, players will have to compete, scouting out for the fresh new land and uncovering its resources. Right now,
that seems... It's like when New World, was it not New World? No Man's Sky was kind of announced and talked about. It just seems like too much. Like, they're promising much more than what I think they can deliver, realistically.
What we've seen is mostly focused on the marketing. We haven't really seen much concrete in-action gameplay. Although that pre-alpha trailer did give a good look at the engine and how the game...
This is Conan, right? This is in Dune.
And I actually like what I'm seeing here. I was actually really surprised by that in-engine footage because I think it looks pretty solid for what they're saying is a survival MMO with crafting and thousands of players. Now, I don't know if that thousands of players is per server or if they're just going to be doing phasing tech and they're assuming thousands of people will play. So it's a shared world with thousands of players. You'll just see them come in and out of existence. We're not sure about specifics as of yet. But after that Game Awards trailer, I'm a lot more interested in...
I think one of the reasons why I'm a bit skeptical on it is because Conan isn't that good of a game. Like, there's a lot of bugs with it. Or at least when I played it. I don't know how it is now, but...
going to deliver with this game. I think it's looking pretty cool. As of now, they have not announced...
I'm surprised he doesn't bring it up.
...release window. It's still up in the air. However, beta signups are currently available on the website, and it does seem like the game will be playable this year, but just don't expect a full release. And I will say it's worth noting as well that their prior game, Conan Exiles, started out as an early access release, so it seems entirely plausible that Dune Awakening launches into early access and then just gets updates until a full release. The next Destiny killer might be playable in 2023. Of course, I'm talking about NC Soft's Project LLL. I'm mostly joking here. It's kind of funny. This game does look like it could be good, but it's not going to be the Destiny killer, okay? Stop the memes, please. This is an open-world third-person MMO looter shooter, second only...
Yeah, if anything, it's more closer to The Division than Destiny.
To fantasy as my favorite MMO genre mashup.
That I've seen.
The announcement trailer for the game came out of nowhere the other month. It opened up with this character loading into a level, kind of materializing in this underground subway, and then they snuck around, they took some pop shots, they fought their way out of the subway area before emerging into a city center, at which point...
it does look really cool. I like the aesthetics. It's like a dark, gritty world.
A mix of different enemy types, environmental interactions, some different systems.
I think they should add more color to some things, like the trees and stuff. Doesn't make sense that they're also really black, but
these pilotable mech suits.
It's also super early in the game.
And explosions, a lot of bombastic stuff, and it all wrapped up with a cutscene of what appeared to be the start of a boss fight against some interdimensional monstrosity with 1,000 arms or something. And what I liked about this early trailer were a few...
Yeah, that boss almost reminds me of the Destiny boss, the one from the Vex, the black God or whatever it's called.
Two things. I really enjoyed the visuals and the design, this futuristic sci-fi setting, lots of really cool tech on display, a cool atmosphere, flashy set pieces. I thought the general presentation of the world was cool, and the gunplay appeared solid at first glance. You can only tell so much from a trailer, but it all looked and sounded really impactful with good animation design to the hits, the explosions, and the various other effects. It seemed like it might be pretty good. So some pretty cool stuff, and I like what I saw of that trailer. There are some early concerns though. For one, performance was abysmal in the gameplay sections. Frame rate totally tanked during any of the combat sequences. There was also some really stiff looking.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, if this is actual gameplay, like, which it seems like, especially if you're getting the frame rate issue, it may fall under like Watch Dogs, where it's like it's too good looking, so they may have to, you know, reduce it.
Animations, some pretty clunky stuff here. Character movement in particular I thought looked bad, and the trailer seemed quite clearly like it was a vertical
I think it's okay. It's not terrible.
Showcase any of the open world they're talking about the game having.
Oh, that's funny.
The biggest concern for many and for me as well is that it's being developed by NCSoft, and like I mentioned with one of the prior games here, it's always something you should be skeptical of.
Super pay to win usually.
They've made some really fun games and games that I've enjoyed playing, but they also tend to lean heavily into pay-to-win monetization with anything that they develop in-house. Project LLL is targeting a 2024 release date, but they have said that they plan to run some beta tests prior, and that
like some games you can play around it. So really all it is you try it, is the pay-to-win to a point where it feels like you have to pay, then just stop playing.
Sometime mid to late 2023. Corepunk is yet another MMO that was originally planned to release in 2022. However, due to the conflict happening in the developer's home country, quite understandably, plans changed. And
yeah, this is one I was really looking forward to. I think it's a bit slow paced, but I was looking forward to it.
Here's hoping that everyone at the studio, their friends and family, have managed and continue to manage to stay safe. Now, as to the game, Corepunk, well, this is a top-down MMO that is kind of more MOBA than ARPG. You've got mouse-click movement, a relatively slow pace of combat with skill shots that need to be aimed, and a class system that has you selecting from a roster of heroes instead of making your own character and class like most other MMOs. Basically,
I wonder how that's going to work. Like, it almost seems like Torchlighty kind of thing, which I think is like a bad idea to try to replicate. Just based on their more recent game not doing so well.
Every hero will have multiple specializations you can choose from, and those each come with a set of predetermined abilities, but you're not picking a class, you're not making a character, you're selecting from a set pre-designated list. Now, looking at the raw gameplay,
I mean, technically it's the same thing. Like, you're picking a class that has subclasses. It's just your class has like a very distinct look that you're not able to change much. Or at least at this time.
Would not be blamed for thinking that this was in fact a MOBA, but no, it really is an MMO. You're going to make your way through an open world, slaying camps of enemies, completing quests, visiting towns and cities with various NPCs, vendors, and other players. They've got the standard checklist of MMO activities like PvE dungeons and raids, arenas, battle.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like a cross between League of Legends and an MMO.
Grounds and open world PvP. Another thing that Corepunk does a little differently from typical MMO stuff is that gear is...
Yeah, that combat was very slow though, so I don't know if I'm going to like it.
Effect on power. Instead, the power of your hero and your progression basically comes from artifacts. These will change your abilities, giving you access to new powers and boosting your stats. And then that along...
I wonder how you can change the appearance of your character. Because if the only way to do it is like either through paying money or changing your character like class, that's gonna be kind of dumb.
With additional customization that comes from leveling up and selecting from multiple different playstyle focused skill trees that are available in the game. I do really like this mix of MOBA and MMO that they're going for. It is one of the things about Corepunk that first caught my attention. They've got so many systems that are usually reserved for MOBAs that I think make sense and are fitting into this big open world experience that mixes PvE and PvE.
Yeah, it definitely looks interesting.
I think it could be really interesting, honestly. So the first beta test was supposed to happen already sometime earlier in 2022, but again, with everything that's going on, the developer did have to postpone. And at this point, it's just kind of hard to tell when this game will release. I originally thought we would have played it by now. With all these disruptions, it's really hard to tell. Of course, I wish the best for the development team and just primarily hope that they all stay safe. And
yeah, I mean, that's really gotta suck. Like, your game's almost ready to be released, and then that kind of stuff happens.
Just look forward to playing this game whenever it is eventually finished.
Seriously.
Next on the list is one that I'm personally very excited
that looks weird.
Soulframe, an upcoming open
world it's Soulframe.
Combat fantasy-themed MMO from Warframe developer Digital Extremes. They first revealed the game in July, and there have been a few updates since. Now, immediately, I was just interested because of some really cool ideas and ways they're looking to diverge from Warframe. Be it a slower pace, more melee and magic-focused combat, a full-on open world with procedural dungeon system, and even the fact that they're labeling this an MMO, which they haven't for Warframe, is enough to pique my interest. Now, from the reveal trailer and various developer updates, we have learned that the game has been in development for about a year. They describe the announcement trailer.
That's not much for an MMO.
A tone piece for the game. This will be set in a fantasy magic-infused world. It's focused on themes of nature and draws heavy inspirations from the likes of Princess Mononoke and the Never-Ending Story. Now, what do we know about the game and its gameplay? Well, they've focused on a few things, mainly that they consider Soulframe a sister project and almost an inverse of Warframe. So for instance, there are some similarities. Both games make use of procedural generation for parts of the game.
To be fair, it's like so early in development, it's hard to say what will actually be there and what will be changed in the company. Like, this is like years away. If I had to guess, like at least 2. I would guess 3 though.
Both are running on the same engine. They will be repurposing some of the same ideas and technology, and they are both multiplayer focused. However, as for differences, where Warframe is sci-fi, Soulframe is fantasy. Where Warframe is focused on shooting, Soulframe is focused on melee and magic. Warframe is like fast-paced and crazy. Soulframe will be slow and heavy. Warframe is a lobby-based multiplayer. Soulframe is open world MMO. So we haven't seen any actual gameplay as of yet, although we've got a few sneak peeks of some in-development work. This came from like environmental shots of test levels. We've seen some animation technology as well, all of which I thought was looking pretty neat. Some other information that we do know about the game: we know it will be free to play, similar to Warframe. They are calling this a hybrid MMO. It's going to have a way different pacing than Warframe does, and it's going to be focused mostly on cooperative PvE. So since the initial reveal of Soulframe, we got a few developer updates. This was
I wonder how that's gonna feel for the people who are into Warframe, because it's a very fast-paced game. Like, you're like running through the levels. So to play something like this, which is more focused on the slow end, like, it's hard for me to say how that's gonna go, just because it feels like you are abandoning your current player base.
Mostly showing off concept art and sound design. There wasn't a lot of new information. I am quite excited for this one. I think mainly just it comes down to Digital Extremes and the fact that they have a great track record of supporting Warframe over these past 10 years with regular updates. Although bear in mind, yes, with Soulframe, we will be navigating the minefield of free-to-play MMOs, and it seems very likely that they will monetize this much in the same way they do with Warframe, because why not? It's been successful for them with that game. That aside, I am really interested. I like the idea of a slower paced fantasy.
Yeah, Warframes isn't too bad. I mean, it's obviously super pay to win, but you can get that strong pretty easily.
Focused open world MMO version.
Not that strong, but pretty strong.
Of what they've done with Warframe. Now, they have said that they've got a super ambitious title and are hoping to have people playing Soulframe within the year. So we're going to assume that this is like a very early alpha or some version of Steam Early Access, a very stripped down basic version of the game. But yes, it is going to be playable by at least some people in 2023. Crimson Desert is an upcoming open world action MMORPG. Or is it? The game is being developed by Pearl Abyss,
Yeah, they said it's going to be single player, which actually I'm really looking forward to it. It's like, I don't know. I think between the combat and stuff, hopefully it's like at the level like The Witcher. Obviously that's like expecting a lot, but you know, like take away the grind from Black Desert and like the RNG upgrades, and I'd probably be playing that right now. But
Leaders of one of the more successful yet controversial currently existing MMOs, Black Desert Online. Now, Crimson Desert was first revealed in 2019 and was said at the time to be a spin-off born of a desire to tell the story of Black Desert's past. Basically, it was set to be a prequel to BDO, and it was announced as Pearl Abyss's next major MMO. After this reveal, they went dark for a while, but then broke the silence in December 2020, releasing a 5-minute gameplay trailer at the Game Awards, which looked pretty cool, but there was a noticeable difference. There was no mention at all of the game being an MMO. They then, shortly after, in interviews, confirmed that yes, it is no longer an MMO, but rather a single-player RPG that will have some multiplayer elements. And that
it's like Ghost of Tsushima. That'd be really cool.
Last month, November of 2022, where Pearl Abyss seemed to confirm via this live stream that the game was an MMO again. It was labeled when they were talking about their upcoming game as an MMO.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Actually wasn't, because turns out that was a mistake. They confirmed via the comment section that this happened to be old source material that they accidentally published at their recent live stream. So Crimson Desert is still, in fact, not an MMO. It's the prequel successor to BDO, predecessor to BDO, next big MMO from Pearl Abyss. No, never mind. It's not an MMO. It's a single-player game that has multiplayer elements. Here's a new live stream where we call it an MMO, but then we have to correct ourselves in the comment section. Oops, sorry guys. We meant, like, what? It's all just very strange. Regardless, though,
yeah, that's crazy. Someone over there needs to make like an official announcement on what it actually is.
Crimson Desert is a game that as of now is scheduled to release in 2023. It's probably not going to be an MMO, but I still want to put it on this list just in case they change genres or they change their mind again.
That's weird.
I don't know. Okay, next up we've got some games that might possibly release or be playable in 2023, but I wouldn't hold your breath. First up is Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, the Kickstarter.
Yeah, everything about this game looks like trash. Like, I know there's people who are really looking forward to it, but man, it looks so bad. Like, I really don't know why you're waiting for this. Just go play one of the ones that have been out already, like Albion, RuneScape, EverQuest. Like, they're still online.
A game that started all the way back in February 2014 and somehow has still not released or been playable in any major form. They've had some early access and hands-on impression and press events, and I'm pretty sure I played this game at one point at a certain event with some other YouTubers, but I'm actually not certain. Like, my memory isn't holding up here. But anyways, the developers are fairly active on the Discord and Twitter. There seems to be a lot of internal testing going on and stuff behind the scenes. However, even today, the game is still looking in a very rough state. It's been many years. We're coming up on 10 years or so, and it looks actually 10 years old in terms of like a lot of its graphics.
Looks older than that.
Gameplay. It just all feels very dated. Now, I know that's supposed to be like a big selling point of Pantheon.
Literally looks like it's like 20 years old.
The golden age of MMOs. That's cool and all in theory, in spirit, but not in visuals, animations, and gameplay. But the game is not released, and it's not anywhere close to finished as far as we know. I don't expect it to be playable in 2023. Well, it might be playable, but it's almost certainly not going to officially release. But I don't know. There's a lot of people who really care about Pantheon, and I do appreciate the enthusiasm that a lot of the fan base has for the game. I guess I just don't have high expectations that whenever it eventually comes out, it's going to be something that I will play and enjoy for very long. But
yeah, because I think the main issue is that, yes, it's taken forever to release, which would be okay if the scope of the game matched that. Like, for example, like if it was promising a ton of things that would, you know, take a long time to make. But it's like just a generic MMO, and it's taking this long. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's almost as if like they have one person working on it. So it's like, even if it releases and it releases to be okay, let's say it's not bad. The biggest problem is like new content. Like, how long are you going to have to wait for new content? Probably years. Just to be fair, probably like 2 years to get the first expansion with nothing between those 2 points.
As always,
other than like maybe community events.
I would be happy to be pleasantly surprised. There's also some games that I'm just so unsure of and really don't know what to make of them. These include things like Project Ragnarok, Chrono Odyssey, Into the Echo, and even Project BBQ, which for a long time was highly anticipated but seems to have gone quiet. Don't know much about these games. Don't
the BBQ one looked really cool.
I'm sure some people in the comments will.
I don't know when it's going to release, but
major developments with any of these games and whether or not they're going to be playable anytime soon. And then there are a few really big games, highly anticipated games, but they're probably not coming out till 2024 or beyond. I'm talking about ArcAge 2, Ashes of Creation, and Riot's Runeterra MMO. Of those, maybe ArcAge 2 gets playable at some point this year. Ashes of Creation will probably have another preview build, some version of their alpha that you can pay money to access. They'll probably do that again. And actually, all of these games I'm really looking forward to, so don't take the brevity of this section as a dismissal or a
yeah, it's just there's based on everything we've seen, they're quite a bit of ways from release. But yeah, a lot of people looking forward to those games I think he just mentioned.
Lack of interest. I am
especially Ashes.
In each one of these. I will certainly play each one of these, and any one of these might end up being the next big MMO. I think there is potential, or at least a big MMO, and an MMO that has a chance to garner a big player base. ArcAge 2, Ashes, and Riot, all of those fit the bill. There's certainly possibilities. Of those three, I expect Riot to be the biggest. I've talked about why.
Well, yeah, because the pool of players they can draw from is just going to eclipse the other two by far. Like, most League of Legends players, if not most, probably half, but anyways, like a portion of them are going to at least try out the MMO. And of course, a portion of that will stick with it. So it's like they're just guaranteed a larger player base based on their previous games.
In the past mainly comes down to just the company's success with different genres, the vast amount of funding that they have, and what that could eventually mean for the size, scale.
That, and they seem to know why games are good. Like whoever over there, they have like making decisions for like the designs, like the mechanics of the games, really knows what they're doing.
And polish of them making an MMO. That is not to be dismissive of ArcAge 2 or Ashes of Creation. And
ArcAge 2 is like, I don't know if I'm going to look forward to it too much, just because the first one did close down. So it's like, how much are they actually going to invest into ArcAge 2? So I'm assuming they just saw the hype that was around Ashes of Creation. It's like, okay, well, there's still a market for this. I could be wrong, but seemed like it.
Especially Ashes of Creation. A lot of the hardcore MMO fan base is super excited, and I count myself among those. But if I were to have...
I'm not hardcore, but Ashes of Creation looks really good. And since it's made by someone who's into MMOs also, so it's like they're not going to have WoW's issue of being disconnected.
A boxing match of Ashes of Creation versus the Riot Runeterra MMO, and the winner was determined by which would be the biggest in terms of player base, in terms of game. And
oh yeah, Riot's gonna blow the other two out of the park if they release at the same time. Ashes, ArcAge 2, and the Riot MMO. It's not even going to be a competition. The Riot MMO is just going to absolutely demolish the other two in terms of just amount of players playing. It's similar to like New World. Like it had Amazon like being its thing. Like I know a lot of people who played it just played it because it was like Amazon. Everyone knows Amazon. And Amazon's not even a game company. So it's like Riot though is a game company. So
content and scale and polish, Riot would be a like one-punch knockout. And it's a stupid analogy.
And they've never really released games like super incomplete, like where it's like kind of crap. They've been very, very solid on release. So
but I hope you get what I'm saying. There's a couple of sort of MMOs that are on the horizon that I am tentatively interested in, but not sure about. They're more social-focused MMOs, exploration MMOs. I'm talking about Palia and Bitcraft. We don't really know a ton about either of these.
I was thinking something else. I think
I've talked about some pretty cool ideas. They just don't really fall in the traditional MMORPG wheelhouse. Which
I mean, it's like the old Facebook games, I would assume, right?
A lot of the prior games do. Then there's a few in development games that we know exist and we know are being made, but haven't been officially announced. First, there is Blizzard's survival MMO.
What?
The level of hype cannot be understated. I know.
I didn't even know about that.
Blah, blah, blah. They're just sucking. Yes, I know. Blizzard, right? Boo, boo. But they still make games that I've enjoyed playing even today. And I am highly anticipating Diablo 4. I've heard nothing but good things about World of Warcraft's recent expansion. I haven't had time to jump in. I've been really busy lately. I got a new setup here, as you know.
It's not bad.
Because I have a new
if you want to give it a try, Force, it's really not bad.
But point is, all the Blizzard
it's not great, but
we want to do, and all of the well-deserved Blizzard dogpiling, all of the self-inflicted, the monetization, the bad work culture, all of the lawsuits, everything that's going on. Blizzard, I'm a lifelong fan of their games, even if it's not relatively the same company, which I acknowledge. I'm always going to check out and be interested in what they're doing. And
exactly, I'm always willing to at least give them the chance. Of course, if Dragonflight sucked, I probably would have been just done it over with World of Warcraft. Because it's like 3 bad expansions in a row. It's just like, it's like going to a restaurant. Like, okay, 1 bad experience, I may go back if like I've already had history with them. 2 bad experiences, I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. And then I'll come back like in a while. And hopefully whoever was like the chef that day is no longer there. But if it's like 3 in a row, it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, they're making a survival MMO. I will probably want to check that out. And then also, there's something we talked about not too long ago, and that is the fact that Sony has a Horizon.
This announcement was pretty cool. I really like Horizon, the Horizon game.
MMO in development of some sorts, possibly multiple Horizon multiplayer games of some combination, whether that's like a Monster Hunter style or full-blown traditional action MMO. We don't know for sure, but yes, that is also something that is in the works. And then outside of all of the new games, there are the existing games, the big MMOs on the market. WoW, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, Old School RuneScape, BDO. You know, there are games that are going to get updates. We expect expansions and major patches and all sorts of stuff for all of these games. I know at the very least, for sure, ESO will have some major yearly content update, and I expect we'll be getting big patches for WoW to follow up this new expansion. Final Fantasy XIV, I don't even know. They might be due for an expansion in 2023. I'm not sure about the timeline, but I think it's possible. And while I don't expect a new expansion for Guild Wars 2, since
I somehow doubt it.
End of Dragons, they'll probably have some major updates as well. And as of now, that pretty much covers the major list of all of the games that are likely to be playable, either fully released, alpha, beta, early access in 2023 and beyond. There's some other minor titles that I neglected to put in here just because I think they might be too far away or just not really interesting to myself or any of you people watching. But yeah, that does it for today's video. Thanks for sticking in here with me. This was a long one. I thought so. As we were putting this list together, I'm like, boy, there's a lot of games, and with the amount of information I'd like to cover,
especially since he's covering not just like upcoming ones, but ones that could be in the future or ones that have just been announced.
It's gonna be a long video. This is probably a long video. I think but yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it helpful, and stay tuned for more content. I got my new office coming up together here. I still got work to do, but got a new setup, and we're gonna be pumping out the content. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of MMOs coming out. Some of them just aren't gonna be that, at least to me. Like Ashfall looked really bad. Odin Valhalla Rising looked bad. Dune Awakening, I know there's some people going to like that, but it's like, it's just not my type of game. Like, I do like some survival games, like Valheim and Vampire or V Rising. V Rising. But it's like, even then, it's the polish of the game. Like, the games are like actually really good. So that's what made me like them. But I'm just not big on like crafting like your own town. I don't know. That's just me. So yeah, that was every new MMO coming in 2023 and beyond. I think he missed a few of them that I know about. Maybe not in 2023, but definitely the Beyond part. So